Vision
We're
Credit.
not live yet.
Oop.
There you go.
Hi, welcome to another Envision Credit Union MoneyWise Wednesday. I'm Kelly Merck, and I'm joined today with my amazing teammate,
Andre.
So today we're going to talk to you about financial spring cleaning. And so I just want to throw this out there. Anyone that knows me knows that I like things clean and tidy, but I am the worst at getting it done because I overthink everything. I try and plan to get everything done all at
Let's put us back up there. Okay.
Yay, we're back.
We're back.
Excellent job, Andre.
Thank you. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but
or where we ended up freezing at. But
we were talking about spring cleaning and
Yes.
how you are not the cleaner in the house,
Right.
Davis.
I want to be.
Okay.
Because I really like a clean house. I just get overwhelmed with it.
I get that.
Which is the perfect analogy for what we're going to talk about with our finances, because we're talking about financial spring cleaning.
Yeah.
And where I like to break things down, and where Andre likes to do one load of laundry a day because he doesn't like laundry, and it's a lot to think about when you have a big pile of it. When you're talking about your finances and you have this big mound, when you think of it as a whole, as one whole thing, it's overwhelming, and it's easier just to walk away from it. So if you break it down into small pieces, if you do one load of laundry a day, or you fill one bag of things that you need to throw out or give away a day, it makes it a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about looking back at our spending and updating our budgets. We're going to talk about credit reports. We're going to talk about how to get a good understanding of your current debts, review different policies like your insurance policies and different things like that, and other contracts. And then we're going to look ahead to savings, special events, and retirement. So we're going to break each one of those down.
Yeah. You're probably going to hear a lot of cleaning analogies and metaphors. So get ready.
And I don't know how Andre is about this, but we haven't, in my household, I usually handle the daily budgeting and the daily expenses, and my husband handles the retirement stuff and things like that, because that is too much for me to deal with. This is too much for him to deal with. So together we make a good team, and we're able to do that. We
kind of tackle it together. So we kind of every expense, everything. And I'm not to say that we're like granular and go through every penny, but we really do try to make all of those decisions together. Like if we feel like we're spending too much on groceries, for example, we'll come together and be like, okay, well, what would make more sense? What can we try? So we try to do those things together.
See, and that's awesome. And I think the key there is that at least you're tackling it.
Yeah.
You're not ignoring it. So when you ignore it, it doesn't make it go away. It usually just makes things explode.
Absolutely, it does.
Whatever works for you. So for my household, it works one way. For Andre's household, it works another way. But just the key is that you're actually paying attention to it and being aware of what you're spending.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is budget refresher. And so we have a great budget, fillable budget on our platform. You're welcome to reach out to us at community@envisioncu.com, and we can send you a copy of the budget. It's just great to know what you're spending your money on, and what you're actually spending the money on, not what you think you're spending it on, but what you're.
That's a great point. Yeah. I was working with somebody because everybody on our team are certified credit counselors. And so we have members and non-members that we work with. And I was literally talking to someone last week, and they brought me this budget. And I was like, well, according to this budget, I don't understand why you're struggling. Like, no, that's where I want to be. That's my goal. Yeah. It's like, well, no, it's great to have goals. It's great to have a fantasy of where you want your money to be, but we got to live in the current reality of where you're spending your money. And so then she was like, oh, okay, well, you want to see that? And then I saw it and I was like,
there we go.
Why
yes. Yeah.
That's why we are where we are. And
and we've all been there. Like I used to be afraid to write down what I was spending money on, because two things. I knew that I wasn't spending it the way I should.
That's right.
And to really think about that and to have to cut back or have to make changes was just, at that point in my life, it was just too much to deal with.
Yeah.
So it was like a fantasy, like,
for sure,
here's where I want to be. So the key there is to be real with yourself. You're only doing this for you, you and your family. So be real with what you're spending your money on. So if you're writing down your budget, it helps you review what you're spending your money on, where the money's going to. And you may actually be surprised. Like what I find with the people that I do credit counseling with is they're surprised at how much they're spending on like food or miscellaneous stuff, or if they're coffee drinkers and they're stopping for coffee.
That's right.
It's amazing how fast it adds up, because somebody will say, well, I'm only spending $20 a week eating out.
Yeah.
No.
That's a great example, because I live, again, the same, not to pick on this person, but it was the same thing. They're going through a very stressful time in their life. And so we looked at their budget and I was like, no, we need to literally go through the bank statement and see what you spent money on, because it can be embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
Not only just to yourself, but even to admit that to another person,
Right.
it can be embarrassing. But so we went through it and we saw that it was like $600 in eating out, and just that one person.
Mhm.
And it's like, I didn't realize I spent all that money.
Right.
Like, I didn't realize I was eating out that much on top of buying groceries. Like,
Yeah.
so sometimes you don't even know, and it's natural. It happens.
And don't feel bad about it. You can't change what you did in the past, right?
Exactly.
We're doing this, we're looking at this, you're looking at this to see what you can do to make changes for the future.
That's
So
right.
you're looking back, but not to criticize yourself and not to be down on yourself, but
Mhm.
you're looking back to see what you did and what you need to change to get to the point that you need to be at.
Right. And one more thing, not to harp on this too much, but we're not even telling you to stop eating out.
Right.
We're saying, if this is your lifestyle and you need to eat out this much, like, we're on the go a lot. So sometimes we eat out probably more than other people do. So maybe your lifestyle requires you to eat out a lot. That's okay. But now we got to look and see where that money is coming from,
Right.
and where we can shave off on the other end.
Yeah. This is just to help you be aware of where your money is going.
Mhm.
So no criticism from us.
Mhm.
If you looked at my budget, you might go, oh my goodness, she's crazy, but it works for me.
Right.
But
Yeah.
because everybody's budget is different, if we looked at our budgets together, they would be completely different.
Yeah, y'all would be surprised at my cupcake budget.
But he's got 2 little kids. I better not have that same cupcake budget.
I don't shake my cupcakes.
Oh, okay. That's your coffee.
That's my
Yeah,
coffee.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So we're going to create, and then, so we're going to write down what you're spending your money on. You can either write it down in a little book. You can keep your receipts. I actually had a wonderful person that I do credit counseling with literally bring in every receipt. Every receipt. We had a stack of receipts.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and it was a realization to her on
Mhm.
how much you actually spend.
Yeah.
Because you just kind of toss those receipts, or if you're paying cash or whatever, you kind of
Mhm.
forget about that. But
See, I don't even get receipts anymore.
oh, see,
I
because
don't.
then it didn't happen.
I don't like
Yeah.
having all the paper.
Look,
I
when-
just don't like having the
No,
paper.
see, when I go into my little thrift stores, if they ask me if I want a receipt and I say no, it means it didn't happen. No, it doesn't, guys. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at your budget, and we're going to make sure that your needs are taken care of.
Yes.
And your needs are your housing, your food, your transportation,
Mhm.
anything that you need to survive. You're going to want to make sure that those numbers are written in, and those are your priorities. And what's great about our budget sheet
Mhm.
is that our needs are on the very top.
Right.
So the first page are our needs, and then it goes to wants.
Mhm.
So if it's on the first page, it generally is something that is vital to you. Now, and then there's some things that may fall further down, but it may be something that you really have to have. So we're not
For
saying
sure.
that just because it's not on the first page, you don't need it.
Right.
It's just saying that that's the way that we prioritize it. But everybody's different.
Yeah. As an example, for some people, high-speed internet is not a need, right?
Right.
But if you work from home, or you are a student and you're doing schoolwork, maybe a high-speed internet is a need.
Right.
And so it depends on your situation.
Right. So just because it's not on the first page doesn't mean that you don't have to have it.
Mhm.
It's just the way that we have that set up. So you're going to make sure that allocate for the needs first, and then your wants, and your discretionary spending. Like if you're a person that has to go get coffee
Mhm.
and you still have money left over after your needs, then by all means, if that's important to you, then do it.
That's right.
I mentioned just a second ago that I like to stop at thrift stores. I love to stop at thrift stores. I'm not going to not stop at a thrift store because it calls me. So,
Sure.
but I may not spend as much money. It depends on how much money I have left in my budget
Mhm.
and how important that is to me. If I have something else that's more important, I may not stop there as much. Like if I have
Right.
something that I need to pay for, like I noticed today when I left the house that my husband's tires are getting a little rounded.
Mhm.
We're going to have to pay for those tires
Sure.
before the end of the year, probably.
Right.
And so I know that those tires are going to be $1,000
Mhm.
at least. So I may cut back on some of my discretionary spending
Mhm.
so that when it's time to buy those tires, that I don't have to go ahead and put those on a credit card.
Right.
Or have to take out a loan for them.
Right.
So, and I'm sure that you have things with the kids too that come up, like
For sure.
summer camps
Well,
for you.
right now in our lives, we have HOA fees coming. And so
Okay.
that's something we're going to have to, that's something that was not allocated for because we just didn't think ahead enough. And so it's like, okay, so we have to set aside money for this specific thing.
Yeah.
I do want to say that we are assuming that you have enough money to pay your bills and take care of
Right.
your needs.
Right.
However, if you are in a situation where you're you're going into your savings, or you're using debt to pay your bills, like your
credit
living
cards,
expenses, then some of those wants kind of have to fall off, because we got to stop the bleeding so that we can take care of what we need to take care of.
Yeah.
So maybe you can't go thrift shopping for now.
Right. Well, and because that, yeah, exactly. Because but where it really comes into play is when there's a need, when you don't have enough money to pay on those needs.
Right. Exactly.
Because that's when you really have to look at those needs. And we're going to talk about that in a second about debt management, about maybe restructuring some of those things that you need to have.
That's right.
Maybe looking to see what other options are out there for those same things, but that may save you some money.
That's right.
But yeah, so when you're talking about needing something, those wants do have to change, because the first time that happened with us was with our HOA too. We were like, oh goodness, we have that. And that's a big bill coming up that we didn't plan for.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
it sneaks up on you.
It does.
Nobody ever thinks about the HOA.
Until it happens. And you're like, oh, where's that money coming from? So once we get our budgets in line and then we're going to set some financial goals. And your financial goals can be anything from paying off debt. Actually, it could be from being able to pay your current debt.
Yeah.
That you have your monthly debts that you have to pay, to making sure that you have money set aside for HOA, or knowing that you have a car repair coming up and being able to set money aside for that. So when that time comes, you have the money set aside and you're not taking from other places to pay for it. It could also be to pay down other debt, to invest just in regular savings, or even to plan for a vacation, or like your kids are young, you have summer camp to pay for, to be able to plan ahead. Because I remember the days of summer camp. It's expensive. It
is expensive.
Like it's little things like that you don't think about until it comes up. And then you're like, oh, how am I going to do this?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so being able to plan ahead for those is a great thing. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is look at your credit report.
Yes.
I know a lot of people talk about going out, and it's not a bad thing, but they go out to Credit Karma because it's free out there. There's annualcreditreport.com.
Yes.
Annualcreditreport.com. It's all one word. We're not affiliated with them.
No.
You don't have it's not a sponsorship, but you don't have to have a credit card to pull your credit from them. So if you go out to annualcreditreport.com, it used to be that you could pull your credit from each credit bureau one time a year. That's the name, Annual Credit Report.
Right.
Now, since COVID, you can pull it every week for free. So go out there, pull your credit, look to see if there's anything on your credit report that shouldn't be on there.
Right.
And it's super easy to dispute it. There's a button. It used to be that you had to write a letter,
I remember
mail it, send it certified letter. Now there's a dispute button. You literally just go dispute and tell them why you're disputing it. And then the creditor has 30 days to respond.
Right.
Now, if they respond and it's legitimately yours, then it's something that you're going to have to deal with.
Right.
But don't ignore it.
Exactly.
Right.
And the thing about annualcreditreport.com, this is your actual real credit report
from all three agencies.
Credit Karma, I always tell people, is an educated guess. Now they do a good job. Credit Karma does a good job, but it's not your actual credit report.
Right.
They're doing their best to kind of figure out what your credit report would be. So you can't rely on that fully. We used to get people, when I was a lender, come in all the time. Here's my Credit Karma. It's like, well, now I got to pull your actual credit report because I don't know if this is real. So, and sometimes it would be off. Another thing I want to note with annualcreditreport.com, I haven't done it in a while, but I know it didn't used to give you a score. I will say the score is less important when you're trying to figure this stuff out. But if you want your score, you can get a score, but you usually have to pay for it. It's like a couple bucks.
Yeah. And so if you have a credit card like Capital One, Discover, a few of the cards will give you a credit score, and it's usually just from one credit card or credit reporting agency. So it's not going to be your overall score. It's either going to be from TransUnion or from Experian. And you can also sign up for Experian at Experian.com, and they'll give you your credit report just for them though. So if you want it from other places, then you're going to want to pay for it. Here's the thing though, if you're pulling your credit report at one of these credit agencies, it's not affecting your credit score.
That's right.
If you go somewhere like to a lender and you ask them to pull your credit, it is going to temporarily affect your credit score.
That's right. That's called a hard pull.
Yes. So don't go somewhere and ask them to pull your credit. You're able to pull it yourself. And if you're not computer savvy and you really need help there's an 800 number to call.
That's right.
And they will help you out and they'll mail you your credit report. Just remember, if you're printing out your credit report or having it mailed, it's got all your personal information on it. Keep that in a safe place or shred it. Don't just leave it laying around.
Yeah. And when we say all of your personal information, we mean all, like your social security number, your current address, your past addresses, like anything that a hacker or thief or whatever could possibly need to steal your identity is on your credit report. So you want to keep that safe.
And they'll also know if you have good credit because it's all written out there.
That's right. Yeah.
So just be careful with that. We always try to remind people just to be extra safe with their credit information.
That's right.
So once you do that, if there's nothing wrong on your credit, that's wonderful. Then you're in the right place. If there is something, make sure you're addressing it. Don't look at it and then put it aside because it's too much to deal with, because it's really not that much. Remember, one load of laundry, one bag of stuff to get rid of. That's one thing. And we're not saying do this all in one day. Maybe you're pulling your budget and that takes you a couple weeks to do. Fine. Check that one off your list. When you get to your credit report, it might take you a minute. And especially if something doesn't come up with the right name. Like I know a lot of store cards, like a Home Depot card or a TJ Maxx card, they're not going to be listed necessarily under Home Depot and TJ Maxx.
That's right.
They're going to be listed under the bank that owns those credit cards.
That's right. One that trips people up a lot are the what do they call them? The rent-to-own furniture places. Yeah. So when you finance through them, a lot of times it's a credit card, but they don't give you the card, and it doesn't look like a card. But when you look at your statement or you look at your credit report, it'll say like Visa or whatever. It'll say a credit card company. You're like, I don't have a credit card. Well, you have a couch. That's a credit card.
So Ashley Furniture does that.
Yeah.
So Ashley's comes up as Wells Fargo.
See, yeah.
And so if you don't know that, you're going to be like, well, I never had a Wells Fargo account. This is wrong. Click. And they still have to respond, but they're going to respond with the information to show you that, yes, you do have that. And you do need to pay on it. A couple of things that will show up on your credit report besides debt. And just to be clear, the things that we count as debt on a credit report are things that you're signing a contract to pay back.
That's right.
So it's not your phone bill. It's not your electric bill. It's not your daycare payments. Debt is any loan that you take out or credit card that you open is going to be what's showing up in your credit report. Unless you don't pay them and they get.
That's right.
Because if you don't pay your phone bill, paying your phone bill doesn't help your credit. Right. But not paying your phone bill hurts your credit.
That's right. Because now you owe them money.
Yes.
And you are taking out a loan because you owe them money. And so until that loan is paid, it's a debt.
Right. So it shows up on your credit report.
Same thing with rent. Rent does. So rent is kind of weird because there are some landlords that will include it on your credit report. I know for the most part, back in the day, they didn't.
Right.
But I think at some point they changed that and now they can. So that may be something you want to work out with your landlord and see if they're reporting it.
Yeah, that's something that you need to ask because if you're trying to build your credit or repair your credit, if you have that opportunity to have it hit your credit, then have it. Just remember that if you ask them to have it hit your credit and you're paying late or don't pay at all, it's going to have just the same effect in reverse.
That's right.
Because they're not going to just report when you're doing it well.
Yep.
They're going to report it all the time. So be careful what you ask for.
That's right.
But if everybody needs a place to live. So if you're making your payments on time, try and get the credit for it to help you.
And one last thing I'll say about that is don't ignore things on your credit report. So if you see you owe somebody, you're in collections for like $50 for something. I see this all the time. Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to worry about it. Well, as long as it's on your credit report, it's affecting you, right? It may be been 5 years ago, so it's not affecting you as much as it is now, but it's still affecting you. So if your goal is to increase your credit score, go ahead and pay. If you've got it, go ahead and pay that off and just be done with it. Because then you have that line item is now paid in full. And now you have a positive mark on your credit report. Right. And it's helping you.
And since Andre brought up the paid in full, I will say, prior to me working in this position, I worked in our member solutions department for 11 years. And a lot of times what we saw was people got in a situation where they couldn't afford to pay for everything and something got written off and charged off. And so it affected their credit. And then they see this on TV or online and they see where you can pay off your balance for less than the amounts owed.
Settlement, yeah.
Yes, the settlement. So just make sure if you have a $200 debt that you owe, don't hurt yourself by paying less than the amount owed.
Right.
Just work out a payment arrangement and pay that $200 off.
Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about $10, $15, $20,000,
That's
and
different.
that's different. It's going to help your credit because you're making a payment arrangement and paying that part off.
Mhm.
It's not going to help as much as if you would pay the full amount off.
That's right.
But you're talking about if it's a difference of paying $100 versus $200, pay that. Do yourself the favor and pay the $200 because it's going to help you in the long run. It's going to build your credit up faster.
I tell people a settlement is better than nothing,
Right.
but the best thing you can do is honor that contract as written and actually pay it off in full. That'll increase your credit score faster than settling.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Settling is stopping the bleeding.
Yes,
but
that's
paying it off in full is actually putting a Band-Aid on that bad boy and starting the healing process.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. So then we're going to talk. A minute ago, we talked about budgeting and what to do if your needs, you can't cover the needs that you have. That's when you start looking at your debt on your budget and looking to see if there's ways to cut back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your credit's not bad, maybe you want to look at consolidating those credit cards onto a zero interest card.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, though, know that there's going to be a fee associated with that credit transfer. And what is going to happen if you don't pay it off in the time that they allotted you that 0% interest.
Right.
So there's other things to think about when it comes down to that. But if you have the ability to do that, it might be a good option for you.
Yeah, remember, it's 0% for now.
For now.
Because you want to know, well, what happens after this year? Because we actually did that recently.
Mm-hmm.
What happens after 12 months or 24 months or whatever the program is it then going to be 28%?
Right.
And sometimes it is. So it's something to
consider. So it's definitely something to consider and look at that amount. If it's a 24-month 0% interest, divide what you owe up into 24 months and see if you can afford that payment. If you're just doing it to stop the bleeding temporarily, you may want to consider something different.
Right.
That's if you know that you're going to be able to do this. And I will say some store cards will actually give you 0% interest. Mm-hmm. But if you don't pay it off in that time, they will charge you the back interest.
The back interest, yeah.
So, and I won't mention names, but a lot of the store cards do that. So you have to know when you're going into that contract, you have to be mentally ready to make those payments until it's to the zero balance.
Yeah, I usually tell people, unless you really know what you're doing and you're really responsible, I would stay away from store cards.
Yeah.
Because those are some of the worst. I mean, those are some of the easiest cards to get in trouble with.
Right. They're easy to get and they're easy to get in trouble with.
Right.
Yeah. So look and see if that's possible to do that. Otherwise, look at some of your debt. If you have cable or if you have the high-speed internet, there's different things, and look to see what other options are out there.
Yeah.
Just because you've always been like, I've been with AT&T since it was US Cellular.
Right.
Like, we have been with them forever. Except for one time when we left, and then it was like for a week, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But if we got to the point though where we couldn't afford our cell phone bill, I may have to look at another cell phone company because that's a big expense. And we like to say that we need it. We pretty much do need cell phones. Now we don't have a home phone, but if I needed to cut back somewhere, it might be that. Another big thing that a lot of people cut back on or that they don't think about is their insurance contract. So homeowners insurance, renters insurance, car insurance. Insurance is really expensive right now.
Really expensive.
And it just keeps going up and up. And I will say a few months ago, I decided that I was going to look to see and find cheaper car insurance.
Okay.
No, I wasn't. Things were almost double what I'm paying now.
Isn't that crazy?
So, but it made me realize, okay, well, at least I've got a good deal right now.
Yeah.
So, but always check those. And same thing with homeowners insurance. It used to be that people would stay with insurance companies forever. And one of my coworkers, her name was Sandy. Sandy actually said, well, that's crazy. She's like, I check for insurance every year to see where I can get a better deal.
Yeah. Well, I say my wife does.
Yeah. Because usually when you first start out with a company, they're going to offer you a better deal because it looks like a great deal and it's going to get you from the other company to them. And so if you're checking each year, you could save quite a bit of money.
For sure.
Yeah.
We do the same thing with internet.
Mhm.
It used to be cable. We don't have cable anymore. We haven't had cable in like 15 years.
Mhm.
But with internet, we bounce between the two major companies we have in town. We have more than two now, but there's two major companies we have here in town. And so we bounce back and forth because, we start noticing our bill is going up. It's like, nope, all right, we're canceling you, going to another one.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be like, no, we'll give you this deal for a year if you stay with us.
And sometimes they're like, bye.
And sometimes they're like, bye. They're like, okay,
so you have to be prepared for that. Have a backup plan. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But so don't pay more than you need to. Constantly look for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then if you do have a little bit of money left over, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to take that money? If you have debt that needs to be paid down, this is kind of one of those things where people really have to think about it. Like, you don't want to take all your money and pay down your debt and not have any money for savings.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to have a little nest egg for that tire that may get a hole in it, or a doctor bill that you weren't planning on, or HOA fees that you forgot about. Little things like that. It's nice to have a little nest egg, because it's one thing to put all your money and pay down all your debt or work towards paying down your debt. But if you don't have that money set aside for emergencies, you're not really helping yourself. So if you have money left over, you're going to want to put a little bit of money here and a little bit of money here. And sometimes, this is just my own personal thing, to not have that money where your checking account is sometimes a great thing. Yeah, because it's really easy. And I'm not saying, like, if you bank with us, thank you for banking with us.
Yes, thank you.
But open up a second account. Mm-hmm. Or don't have your checking account and your savings account tied together where you can just go in and transfer the money over. Have it separate so that you can say, okay, this is money that I need set aside for this. Mm-hmm. We do that. We have a little nest egg, and it's not a big nest egg, but in case of emergencies at the house, we have a little bit of money set aside. And we don't touch it. Right. It's not one of those things like, oh, I need $20 in my purse. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take money out of there. Well, we're always at a credit union, so we better not do that. Right. But just to have that money set aside so that you have it for emergencies. Yeah. But then really thinking about what debt you have to pay down. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're one of those people that you've got your needs aren't even being taken care of, it's hard to talk about this. But we're talking to a group of people. So if you're in that situation where you have debt to be paid down and you have a little bit of money left over, work on paying it down. Right. And there's a couple ways to do it. And we're not going to talk about consolidation, because that really shouldn't be the goal for trying to pay down debt. Mm-hmm. There's a couple ways to do it. There's a snowball way, and then there's the avalanche. Yep. So which one do you guys use?
So when we were getting out of debt the first time, we used a snowball.
Okay.
Because I'm a spender and I needed to see those little wins.
That's how we are too.
I didn't care about the interest rates. I didn't care about any of that stuff, which the avalanche makes more mathematical sense. Right. But because you're actually saving money, I wasn't concerned about saving money. I was concerned about getting out of the hole that I dug myself. Right. And so the snowball method, which is you're paying off the debt's lowest to highest amounts
owed. Yeah.
Right. And then every time you pay off a debt, you take whatever you were paying on that debt and apply it to the next one. And so it creates a snowball where all of a sudden you're paying like a lot of money on the debt.
On the largest debt that you have.
Right. It gets taken care of quickly. So, psychologically, it was great for me.
Yeah. And I am the same way. Mm-hmm. I know that paying the avalanche is paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. That tends to be the debt with the higher balance too, though. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a person that is a numbers person and you're just looking at how much you just saved yourself, that's the way to do it. But if you just want those little wins, because who doesn't want a little win? Yeah. Like we go to get coffee in the morning because we want something special, right? Yeah. With the little fancy foam and everything else, because we do that because we want something special. Mm-hmm. For me, the snowball method is perfect for me because I want that little win. Right. Because if I have a balance that's $200 and I get that paid off in like 4 months, that to me is a win, because guess what? When that bill comes the next month, I'm going to see a zero. Right. And for me, that's everything. Right. I still know that I have the other debts out there, but I have a zero on that one because we made that happen. Exactly. So I think a lot of people that are in debt like that snowball method because they get to see the little wins. Yeah. The snowball method is more for people who I'll speak for myself, who lacked that self-discipline. Yeah. And so it really helped me be like, oh, I can do this. Yeah. Like I can make this happen, and I got that win. So and just to be clear, we've been there before. I'm a bit older, than Andre is. And so we have been in that position a couple times.
Mhm.
I would like to say we did that the first time and learned, but we didn't. We did it all over again. So it's okay.
You know what? That's a great point. People assume, because that's good, because people assume that you had a point in your life when you're broke, and now, however long it takes, now you got it all figured out.
Yeah. No.
We went through periods too. Like
Yeah.
we were broke when me and my wife got together, and then we paid off all of our debts. We were debt free, y'all, and it felt so good.
Yeah.
And then we had my son, and I love that little rascal, but he's expensive. And so we racked up debt again. And it wasn't crazy, but it was still, it got uncomfortable. And so we had to dig ourselves out of that hole again. And so now we're in a period of our life where we're doing okay, but we still got some debt. So it's not like we were broke and now we got it all figured out.
Yeah.
You go through periods of time,
Yeah. And it's not like it happens because some big some people, they have a big catastrophic life event and this is what happens and now they're dealing with it. But a lot of times for people, it's the day-to-day things that happen that you don't plan for, that, life events happen and all of a sudden you have this another $100 bill comes up, or you get in that mode where you really deserve something. And so you're at Best Buy and you see a new laptop that you want and you're like, I deserve that. And then it goes from, I'll use my husband's guitar stuff for an example, because he's a musician too. But, you go in and you're going in to buy a cord, but they have a really great deal on a guitar. And so you deserve that guitar. So then you buy it because it's 0% interest, but then all of a sudden you have $100 payment. And then maybe the tire blows.
But it sounds slightly different than the other guitar.
Right? Yes. Yeah. I don't know about that.
Speaking as a musician, that's why we have 10 guitars, y'all, because they all sound different.
And so life events happen, right? So it's not necessarily some big crazy thing that happens. And it's not something that you can go, oh yeah, when this happened, this is what changed everything. Because if it was that simple, you'd pick up on it pretty quick.
That's right.
Like it just happens.
And it happens to all of us.
It happens to everybody.
It happens to everybody.
Hopefully I've learned enough from the last few times that it's happened to not have it happen again.
Right.
I would like to say that. But who knows? Because we're human. Right?
Human stuff happens all the time. Yep.
So try and think about how to get rid of some of that debt if you're able to. If you followed these steps and looked at your credit report and budgeted a little bit and really know what you're spending your money on, maybe there's ways to cut back on other things so that you can help pay down debt that you have.
Can I put a button on savings a little bit? So
absolutely.
When I teach about budgets and when I sit down and do budgets with people, I tell people there's no such thing as extra money, right? You don't have extra money. It's what are we doing with the money that's left over? We still need a plan. So if you get through the month and you see you got an extra $1,000, yay, congratulations. Okay, what are we doing with it? Is it going in savings? Is it going towards your goal, like you're buying a house or buying a car or something like that? Is it going towards your debt? Are you putting extra on your debt? What's happening to it? Because it's not just sitting in the account. We don't have the luxury of just having money just sitting in an account doing nothing. True. So where's it going? And it could be savings and it could be sitting there doing nothing, but at least you planned to do that.
Yes.
And it's not just out of happenstance.
And when you have a plan for your money, it tends to happen. It tends to go where it needs to go. Like my husband and I just got to go on vacation and we saved for it for like a year and a half. We had that goal in mind that this is what we were going to do. And so when something came up that we may have wanted to do, we knew that if we did that this was not going to be attainable, or that we would have to put it on a credit card. And there's nothing worse than going on vacation and then having to pay for it for a year later.
Exactly.
To continue to pay for something that's already gone. So you're right. You don't have extra money. You have money that needs to be delegated somewhere.
That's right.
Even if it's delegated to your wallet for spending, for discretionary spending.
100%.
That's part of it. Doesn't mean that everything has to go to a bucket and you don't get to touch it.
Right.
It just needs to have a place.
Yeah, that extra money could be an allowance for yourself to go do whatever. So,
because budgets don't work if you don't have a little bit of fun in there.
That's right.
At least my budget never did.
Right. No.
Yeah. You have to have a little bit of fun. You work hard, you deserve a little bit. And plus you're rewarding yourself for a job well done, because a budget is a job well done if you're following it. So
again, I just want to stress, this is assuming you can pay all your bills.
Right. Yeah. So
it's assuming all your bills are getting paid.
If you're not able to pay all your bills, please reach out to us.
Yes.
Reach out to us. It's community@envisioncu.com. reach out to us. Like Andre said earlier, all 3 people in our department are certified financial counselors. We will talk with you. We can look at it. We can do a one-on-one.
That's right.
So if you're, and even if you're not in that situation and you just need help, reach out to us.
For free. We don't
For
charge.
free. Yeah, we don't charge.
Yeah, we don't charge.
It's part of what we do.
Yep.
So he touched on the savings. One good thing for savings, and I already said to make sure that that savings account isn't attached where you can just transfer money back over, but set up automatic payments from your paycheck or from your account so that it automatically transfers over and you don't have to think about it.
And I promise you won't even notice. I promise you won't notice. I know sometimes it's stressful. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it if I do that. If you set it up automatically, because my philosophy is pay yourself first.
Right.
So you save money before you pay bills. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I promise if you do that, if you do 10% or whatever the percentage is, you won't even notice.
And if you're really worried about it, do $10 or $20 a paycheck. And when you don't notice that money coming out, you can ramp up a little bit.
I tell people if you're worried about that 5-10% or whatever it ends up being, then there's other issues going on. Then that means you're too tight. So we need to figure out what's going on.
So set up savings goals and set up automated transfers. And if you have investments, review them. Now, I will be the first one. I cannot deal with my retirement plan because it stresses me out, especially,
same.
Like it just, and it ebbs and flows. It's, it's up and it's great and it's down and it's bad. And I can't deal with that. Luckily, my husband can.
Okay.
Like I said before, he can't handle the day-to-day stuff. He doesn't want to know about the day-to-day stuff, but he's really good at looking at the investment stuff and not getting as worked up as I am. And we're at the age where we have a 7-year plan going, maybe 10, depends. But, we're at that point in our lives where it's super important to us. Like when you lose money, it still bothered me. I'm going to say that. I was going to say when you've got 20 years to go and you lose some money, it's not as big of a deal. It was to me. Like that is something that is just too much for me to deal with. So he deals with it. I know you guys go at it as a team.
No, we don't. That stuff might as well be hieroglyphics to me.
Okay.
So, and we're at the age where we probably should be paying more attention to it, but we don't really. It's just,
I remember being your age.
We put stuff away. Like we pay more than the minimum, and it's like, just it's in there. It's doing something. So, But I mean, to be fair, we probably should be paying more attention to it, but we don't. We just we contribute, and then we just.
But at least you're contributing.
Yes.
So if you have the opportunity to contribute to a 401k plan through your work, and they're matching it dollar for dollar, or even 50 cents on the dollar. If you have the opportunity to earn free money, even if it's only 3% of your check or whatever, and it's going to come out pre-tax contributions most of the time, if you have the opportunity to be part of a retirement plan, do that.
Take advantage.
Because it will make your life when you're older so much better.
I tell people all the time, you don't want to have to work. When you're 75 years old. Now, no judgment to people who do, but I'm saying you don't want to have to. If you want to work, that's totally, but you don't want to be in a situation where you have to.
No, because having to work at that age is terrible. Sometimes having to work at our age. Just kidding. We have a great job. So your retirement stuff, and if you need help, and I don't mean to go to somebody that you don't know or somebody that you don't trust. If you have somebody at your if you have an employer that matches your 401k, talk to them, because there's going to be somebody that handles the 401k that can answer questions for you.
Or you could talk to a financial advisor.
Or a financial advisor.
A financial advisor, which is separate from a financial counselor. So we're not the same thing.
We're not going to give you.
Any of us are financial advisors.
We are not. We are not going to give you advice on financial planning, because that is not what we do. We'll counsel
a separate thing.
We're not going to teach you how to grow your money. We're going to teach you how to stop losing your money, or how to balance your money a little bit better. That's how we do it.
But you can talk to a financial advisor. Usually the initial consultation is free. And so they'll at least look at your numbers and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And then if you want to go forward, then there's usually a fee associated with that. I don't know what that is, but I do recommend people who are thinking about retirement and are thinking about the future investments, things like that, sit down with a financial advisor who knows what they're talking about and,
Yes.
get that advice.
And my husband actually works with Andre's mom, and they have somebody that is associated with their company that we've actually sat down with a few times, and he's spelled everything out for us and said, okay, this is, you're on track, or this is what you need to do, or this is what you not need to do. And that's part of their benefits package, that they have that person available. So,
which is awesome.
Don't take advice from Uncle Ricky or whatever. Just find somebody that knows what they're talking about. Unless Uncle Ricky is a certified financial planner, then feel free to, or if he's good with investments and you trust him, but just talk to somebody that understands investments, because that's a pretty, from my perspective, it's a scary world. So I don't do it myself. I have somebody else that handles that for us. So we already talked about insurance, making sure that you're checking and comparing, not just for your insurance, but anything else that you are paying for.
Subscriptions.
Things
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And talking about subscriptions. So like there's a commercial out there that talks about how many subscriptions do you have? And people are like 4, and really they have 12. And like, that's a true thing.
Oh, for sure.
And I just went through, so I have, we have the standard, we have the Netflix and the Amazon Prime, and I do Walmart grocery delivery because it's amazing. And we travel around a lot. So to be able to not have to go to the store and do that is great for me. But we also have like Hulu and different games that the grandkids download on my phone without me knowing about it, because now they're smart enough to do that. But little things like that you don't realize, it's $5, it's $4, it's $12. It all adds up. So I actually went through the other day and looked at my Amazon Prime account, because that's what everything falls under. And I got rid of Hulu, and I got rid of Netflix, and I got rid of Max, because we don't ever use those. I didn't get rid of Disney, because when the grandkids come over, they like to watch Disney, but I saved myself like $20 just like that.
Yeah.
And you don't think $20, well, that's not that big of a deal, but it adds up.
$20 a month adds up.
That's my thrift store money right there. That's $20. And so if I'm in a situation where money's really tight, those might be things that you want to look at.
100%,
and just because you watch it like once a week, do you really need it? Like, is that something that you have to have?
Could you live without it? So we did that with Netflix. We got rid of Netflix and Amazon Prime. My wife fought me a little bit about that.
I know. I was thinking about Amazon Prime.
We got rid of Amazon Prime because really we don't order as much stuff as we think we do. And yes, the 2-day shipping is convenient, but we live close to a factory. So actually 2-day shipping is kind of irrelevant.
Yes.
And also if we need something in 2 days, we could just go to Walmart, which is down the street, and just go get it. But the point is, we got rid of Netflix, which we were spending $25 a month.
Oh, for Netflix?
Netflix, they went up.
Yeah.
When we got the letter that they were going up, we were like, no, let's look at this. How much do we actually watch this?
Yeah.
And then we got rid of Amazon Prime, which is $120 a year, I think,
it
something
is.
like that. So,
or $12.99 a month.
Or $12.99.
Or $14.99. It went up. $14.99 a month.
So we got rid of those two. And honestly, life is the same.
Yeah.
We still got plenty to watch.
And I will say, my Amazon Prime, those people know me by name when they're delivering. So maybe I do order way too much stuff from them. And so, and I actually was thinking about this last night. I should get rid of Amazon Prime, because it's so easy just to, let me order that. Let me order that.
Yeah.
And I could save money. Not only would I save on the subscription, but it would make me think, because I don't go to a store and spend that kind of money on just random crazy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But I sure will on Amazon Prime.
Because it's easy.
Because it's easy. And you're not handing them cash. Like, it's just coming out of your account.
I was literally going to say, that's kind of our same philosophy when we were getting out of debt. We started paying for things in cash instead of using the card. And that was the same thing. You think about it a little bit harder when you got to give them cash versus swiping the card.
You do. Yeah. So
that's a whole nother segment for a whole nother day.
So canceling subscriptions where you may not need it, reducing spending. So again, like I was saying with the Amazon Prime, if I didn't have it and got that free shipping, I wouldn't order half the stuff that I order and don't need. And then thinking before you make the purchase. So I can nickel and dime stuff to death. That's my thing. That's my position in our household, is that I nickel and dime stuff to death. My husband's, on the other hand, he'll make big purchases and he doesn't think about it for 2 seconds. It's the guitar thing. So, so he'll see something and he needs to have it. And then he makes that big purchase. So really both of us need to take our time and really say, okay, wait, do I really need this?
Yeah.
So I look at him and go, well, you just spent $500 on that, but I spent $500 last week on stuff that we didn't need either. So really, if we're being honest with ourselves, really think about, do you really have to have that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
we have this, sorry, I didn't
no,
mean
you're fine.
we my wife and I, we don't fight, but we have this conversation about I'm your husband. I make big purchases.
Yes.
And she makes little thrift store purchases.
Yes.
And so in her mind, it's better because
well, it is.
She's buying little things.
It is.
Well, she's like, I'm not spending $500 at a time.
Right.
But it adds up to $500. It's like the same. And we're in a good financial situation. It's not a big deal. And we also have structured our finances where we have our own little allowances and we can do that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because early in our relationship, same thing was happening, but we couldn't afford it.
Right.
And so the big purchases versus the little purchases, when you're not paying attention, it seems different, but it actually does add up to the same.
Right.
So,
yeah. So we are in the same boat. And then one more thing that I want to talk about that a lot of people don't think about is selling things that you don't use.
Yes.
So I talked about earlier when we're cleaning our house to just bag stuff up and get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
We have stuff that we throw away because I never want to donate anything that's not worth anything. Like if it's broken or whatever,
I feel that.
You get rid of it, right? If it's something that I can donate or if it's something that I can sell, if it's something that I can sell, is it worth me going through the effort of selling it?
Right.
Right. So is it worth meeting somebody at Target to sell a $5 chair? Or is it worth meeting somebody at Target to sell 9 guitars?
Sure.
So you need to balance out. And there's also a safety factor,
right?
Making sure that you're not putting yourself at risk by trying to sell something.
I would say if you're here in Tallahassee, we have what's called a 1 week boutique. And my wife, Melissa, she participates in that almost every year. They do it twice a year now.
They do.
And so she actually bags and tags a whole bunch of like old kids' clothes, kids' toys, shoes, anything that's in good shape that's worth something, like you were saying. She will bag and tag that stuff and actually sell it. And actually, she makes pretty good money.
Yeah.
Off of that old stuff. But it does take time and effort and room in our small house.
Yes, there's that.
It's bagged and tagged up. So
I attempted to do that for a while, and I just it got overwhelming. It's a lot. But my daughter-in-law does it, and she does a lot of it with the kids stuff too. So if you have the ability to make a little bit of money, or even swap out with your friends, if you have friends that have older kids or younger kids, swap stuff out with them.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's the kids are getting something new. You're not spending money on it, or you're making a little bit of money like Andre's wife, so that you can then spend that money, either pay off stuff with it or buy the things that you needed to buy anyway. So you're saving money.
One thing I'll add to this is sometimes it's better to fix the thing rather than buy a new one. Yeah. So we have a Roomba. It's not actually a Roomba, but it's a Roomba. Yeah. A vacuum that goes around and does stuff. So it stopped working and we were really frustrated, and it's really expensive. We're talking like $600 because we have the one that mine was empties itself.
Mine was at $199.
I wish I was right. But so it's kind of fancy, but it broke down and I was upset because that thing's expensive and I did not feel like replacing it. And so we were looking at replacements and we're like, oh, we're gonna have to do this. And so we did a little bit of research and we found out that, we can just swap out this component for $70 and it'll work like brand new. And so that's what we did. And
it worked.
And it took a little work to take it apart and put it back together, but that's $70 versus $700.
And you can always find directions on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like if you can't find it on YouTube, it doesn't need to be fixed. Right. Yeah. My husband has fixed refrigerators and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
We
fixed a lot of stuff we didn't know we could fix. Yeah. We fixed our washing machine one time. Yeah. So, I mean, look into that stuff. Don't immediately go, well, it doesn't work, so let me just replace it. Or
just because it doesn't look good, you want to replace it.
That's true too.
Washing machines end up looking really funky, but
rusted. Old washing machines, oh my goodness.
And they last forever. So there's always a way to look for something where it might not be in your best interest to just go out and buy a new one, even though it seems like the fun thing to do.
Right.
or because you want something new and shiny and pretty because you deserve it. But if you can just look at those little things and fix it or swap it out with somebody, because you know what, kids don't care. Kids don't care if that toy came from the neighbor.
They really
it's
don't.
new to them. Those little remote, those ride-on cars. I've never had a brand new one, and they love them anyway. They're going to drive them.
New to them.
Yes, it's new to them.
I've learned over the years, if it's new to them,
yes,
they do not care.
So, okay, we've got to wrap it up because we talked a lot. We had a little technical difficulty before that. So, so any other suggestions for saving for financial goals? I think we kind of went through a lot.
The only other thing I would suggest, if you're in a situation where you can start an emergency fund and set that stuff away. I know you were mentioning putting it in a separate account. We go to the extreme and we put it in a whole nother institution in a CD. And so that money is just kind of sitting there and it's actually making money. It might not be a whole bunch of money, but it's making money while it's sitting there.
It's making more money than it would in a savings account.
Exactly. Yeah. And it actually puts that extra layer of, if we need it for an emergency, it better actually be an emergency, because if we take it out, we're going to have a penalty. So, I mean, it's
not a huge penalty, but you know what, when you have to pay money back for something that's already yours, it makes you think about it twice.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the hope is that we never have to use it. And so, but while it's sitting there, it's making us money. So.
Which is a perfect idea. And you'd mentioned that before, and I had never really thought about that. I mean, we have a CD, but I never thought about using that.
You know, and I hadn't known until somebody mentioned it to me. So you don't know until you know.
That is a great tip. So hopefully we've been able to kind of give you guys some tips, let you realize that it's okay to not tackle it all at once. It's laundry. Hopefully you separate the colors.
Separate the colors. Yeah. We used to separate everything. Sorry, I'm going on. We should do towels with towels, sheets with sheets, kids' clothes with kids' clothes, our clothes with our clothes, and then we do heavy darts and light darts. We don't do that anymore.
Wow. Now I get separating the towels because then you get lint all over everything.
I don't care.
But
so now we just do every day. We do a load of darks, we don't always do a load because there's not as much whites. But anyways, we do a load a day. And
it works out perfect. And that's what we're talking about. Just tackle it a little bit at a time. And if you try to do it all at once, it's really overwhelming. But if you do a little bit at a time, looking back, time flies. And so if looking back, you've done a little bit at a time and all of a sudden you've got it done.
That's right.
And then you just have to kind of do the maintenance on it and just continue with it. And like only having one load of laundry to do a day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And or having no trash bags to fill up. That will never happen in my house.
Or doing the dishes as you cook.
Right. And we do that. So, but there's only two of us. So we're a totally different part. He's got a house full of people and we've got
paper
two
plates
people. So there you go. But thank you guys for joining us. If you want more information or to learn a little bit more about us, you can check us out at community@envisioncu.com. You can go out to our website, which is envisioncu.com. We also have a great platform called MoneyWi. You can it's self-paced. You can kind of pick and choose from the different, if you want help on budgeting, if you want to know more about home buying and the process involved in getting ready to do home buying. What other things do we have out there?
There's all kinds of specific things like budgeting, credit. You've got
car buying.
Car buying.
So there's
specific things.
There's a ton of different topics to choose from. If you go through those and then you want more information, just reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
That's right. If you're listening to this on the podcast, this has been our monthly MoneyWi Wednesday. So we just take the audio from the MoneyWi Wednesday live stream and we turn it into a podcast. So
perfect. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
It's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.